Aloha, everyone. So, this week we received a much anticipated update regarding the proposal to phase out short term rentals on Maui that have legally been operating in apartment zoning for decades. The Economic Research Organization at the University of Hawaii, also known as UHERO, just released their economic analysis of the proposed changes to our short term rental rules. Now, this is something that we've been waiting for several months because it should give us an unbiased and fact-based look into how this proposal will affect not only our housing market, but also our entire local economy. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a presentation from UHERO that recaps their findings, and then we're going to dive into some more of the specific details of the entire report. Let's start by hearing what UHERO had to say.
Hello, I'm Trey Gordner, a policy researcher at UHERO, and I'm here today to talk to you about one of our recent studies. This study is about the Minatoia List phase-out, a proposal by Mayor Bisson of Maui County, and it's sponsored by the Hawaii Community Foundation. To start, let's give a little bit of context about the policy. So this was proposed in the wake of the 2023 Maui wildfires. Destroyed 3,300 structures, many of them single-family and multifamily residences, displacing thousands of residents in an already tight housing market. The proposal is to phase out longstanding exemptions for transient vacation rentals or short-term rentals, about 6,000 of them currently operating in apartment districts. These are districts that are primarily residential. And the goal is to improve housing affordability by converting these transient vacation rentals into long-term housing units, either owner-occupied or long-term rentals to locals. So HTF asked us to look at the economic impacts, what the economic impacts might be of this policy in three areas. The first is in tourism, on the tourism-based economy. The second is on home prices. And the third is for tax revenues to the county. So our first takeaway is that Maui's economy would contract by about 4%. To get this result, we use a computable general equilibrium model. You don't have to know the details. What you should understand is that it models the economy as a system of interrelated industries. So we're not just looking at the direct impact on hotels and on the TVRs themselves. We're also looking at the indirect impacts on related industries like retail and food service. Once we factor all of those things in, we estimate that in terms of purchasing power, as real terms, we see a decline in visitor expenditures of about $570 million, or about 11%. That translates to some losses in incomes and also an overall loss in GDP and a loss of about 1,900 jobs. And for context, that's about the number of jobs that were lost after the Lahaina wildfires. It's sort of the gap that still exists today. And so in some sense, this policy would make that gap permanent. Our second takeaway is that condo prices decline by 25%. To get this finding, we model the historical relationship between the inventory of condos, how many are on the market at any one time, and the listing price of those condos and the sale price of those condos, factoring in differences over time in job growth and in inflation. And on a wide range of scenarios, between 20 and 40%, but 25% on average is what we find. Now, because the decline in earnings, the decline in incomes, is not as high as the decline in home prices, that means in some sense that housing becomes more affordable. With your income, you can buy more home, right? But that's not the whole story on Maui. So the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development treats any price-to-income ratio, the division between the price of the home and your income, any ratio of over 5 as extremely unaffordable. So it is an improvement in relative terms, but it's an improvement that mostly upper-income households will experience. Our third and final takeaway is that there's a tax gap created of about 10%. Now, we look at 3 different taxes and the estimated annual loss of those taxes. The GET surcharge, which is the tax that is kind of like a sales tax, it's tagged on to visitor spending, would decline by about $15 million. And the transient accommodations tax, the tax that's attached to your bill if you rent a TVR or a hotel room, would decline by about $9 million, the share going to Maui County. And these flow from the model that we talked about in our first key takeaway, where government is also modeled as a related industry. For the property taxes, we actually reconstruct 2023 tax records and simulate what would happen if those 6,000 units switched to a different use proportionate with the way that units are used for the rest of Maui. Now, there are direct and indirect impacts of that. The direct impact is on those units switching uses, and the indirect impact is the price declines that we discussed on the previous slide. So factoring both of those things in, we estimate that property taxes receipts would decline by about $60 million a year. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, you'd like to read more of the report, please check out our website, UHERO.hawaii.edu.
Okay, so I don't think there's any surprises in Trey's presentation. We all knew that while the proposed legislation would reduce property values for the properties that would be affected, we also knew it would have some negative impacts on our local economy and significantly reduce the tax revenue. But let's take a closer look at some of the details I found in the report that were not mentioned in UHERO's video. And by the way, I'll share a link to the full report found on UHERO's website in the description below in case you're curious to dive into the details for yourself. So the full report is 28 pages long, and most of it goes into more detail on the methodology of how they came to the statistics that we already saw in Trey's video presentation. But one of the sections that I found interesting was on page 4, where they discuss what has happened in other locations that had similar shifts in short-term rental regulations. It starts by stating that the scale of the policy changes proposed here on Maui is unprecedented because of the higher concentration of short-term rentals that we have here compared to other locations studied. With that in mind, we see that when converting 1% of the total housing from short-term rentals to long-term rentals, Los Angeles reduced prices and rents by 4%, Boston only reduced rents by 0.5%, Barcelona reduced prices and rents by 2.3%, and London reduced rents and prices by 4%. So none of these case studies are able to prove that converting short-term rentals is able to reduce housing affordability in any meaningful way. Of course, we recognize that the scale of Maui's conversion would be much higher than these case studies. So the effect on housing affordability would probably be higher on Maui as well. But so would the unintended consequences. When we scroll down to page 12, we see what UHERO anticipates would be the effect on property values for the properties that lose their ability to short-term rent. They anticipate that the median value of these properties would drop from $971,000 to just over $728,000, which would be a reduction of about 25%. However, the economic impacts of the new short-term rental regulations would cause the median family income to be reduced from around $109,000 to $99,000 per year, which gives us a price-to-income ratio of 7.3. And as Trey mentioned, anything above 5.0 is considered extremely unaffordable. So these properties would still be considered unaffordable to your average Maui family, especially the lower income population that is struggling the most. But I think the conclusion to the study hammers home some of the most important points when it says that while expanding Maui's housing supply is a critical policy objective, the proposed intervention is unprecedented in scale worldwide. Without reliable comparisons, predictions of exact economic outcomes are more uncertain. And then it goes on to say that the benefits of lower home prices may not be evenly distributed. Higher income households may benefit from lower purchase prices, while lower income renters may see only indirect benefits through the process of filtering. So in many ways, the study confirms a lot of the points that I've been making from the very beginning. Simply put, there's no guarantee that eliminating these short-term rentals will lead to more affordable housing. But it is certain that it will have negative impacts on our local economy that will disproportionately affect the lower income population, which is exactly who we all want to help with this policy. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we really willing to gamble on Maui's future with this experiment? Because this report confirms that that's exactly what we would be doing. Again, there's no guarantee that a phase out of these short-term rentals will substantially help solve our shortage of affordable housing on Maui, but it will guarantee an economic recession for our local economy that's more likely to hurt the lower and middle income population that it intends to help. And it's important to understand that housing affordability isn't just a Maui problem. This is happening all across the country, even in places with zero short-term rentals. So if you ask me, blaming short-term rentals is an oversimplification of a much more complex problem. And I think sometimes you need to take a step back and try to see the bigger picture, and you'll see that everyone has been impacted by inflation. But those are just my opinions, and I'd really love to hear what you think. Share your thoughts on the economic study from UHERO in the comment section below. Do you think that the proposed changes will lead to more affordable housing? And is it something that we should continue to pursue? Or do you think that the negative impacts are too great of a risk? I would love to see a healthy debate from both sides of this issue, but let's do our best to keep the arguments fact-based and about the issue at hand, and not about discrediting or slandering people that are sharing their thoughts. Now, from a real estate professional's perspective, I think it's really important that people understand that properties are still being bought and sold on Maui every day. Yes, our market has slowed down, but that's not just because of the turmoil here on Maui. High interest rates and the uncertainty in the overall U.S. economy are also playing a factor. But this could really be an opportunity depending on how you look at it. One thing that I suggest everyone should do is track the real estate values for the properties that they're interested in. And I think that's a healthy exercise whether you're a current owner or someone who's considering buying. So with that in mind, I've made it really easy for anyone to create a saved search for specific condo complexes or neighborhoods that will give you automatic updates delivered directly to your email. Let me show you exactly how easy it is to set up.
Okay, so you're going to start by going to my website. It's hirealestateexperts.com. I'll also share a link in the description below, so you're just one click away. From here, it's real easy. You go to the search tab, make sure you're on the appropriate tab for the right island. You see that we're already on Maui Island, and then type in the neighborhood or the condo complex that you're interested in. In this particular example, we're going to use Hanuakai, which is one of my favorite hotel zone properties in Kaanapali. Hit start search. This is going to pop up all the current listings that are currently available at Hanuakai. And then from here, all you have to do is hit save search. Type in your information, hit create account. And from here, you can adjust how frequently you want to receive email updates. The default setting is going to be weekly, but if you want it more regularly, like daily or immediately when the property is listed, you can change it here. Hit save search, and you're done. Now, if you're having struggles with the system and you want me to set up a save search for you, simply email me or fill out the contact form and let me know what your search criteria is, and I'll set it up for you in the back end.
Anyways, that's all I have for you on this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you appreciate these updates. And share this video with someone you know who would also like to be kept in the loop on what is actually happening here on Maui. I hope to see you all on the next video. Aloha.